The show.
Hey guys, Paul Altman here, aka Big Buck with the Beats here. Um, and today, in this episode of the Paul Altman Show, after 7, 8, 9 months away, I decided, even though June 25th is the most saddest day within the Michael Jackson fandom and the family, so I'm going to dedicate this episode to Michael by interviewing our guest, interviewing another Michael Jackson tribute artist. We already had another one by my bro, the homie, the big homie Michael Trapson. If you have not seen it, and listen to it on the podcast, the Paul Altman Show podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and everything else. And no more all that. Let's get into the interview with the episode Michael in the Mirror, episode 34. Episode title Michael in the Mirror, with my guest Dylan Knight. Let's get groovy. Jamona. Let's record. All right.
Michael, how's it going, Paul? Big Buck. How's it going?
Hey, I'm good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. It's good to see you again. I'm glad to be here on this day. I believe we should be celebrating Michael. We shouldn't mourn. We should celebrate.
Right. And I couldn't agree more. Um, Tell me a little bit about yourself and where you're from.
I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and born and raised. And I think that Michael is a big figure around St. Louis. A lot of his culture is, popularized in St. Louis, and a lot of my work is from there. And a lot of people respect me for the work that I do, and I couldn't thank them enough. I'm so thankful for them. I'm so thankful for the love that I receive from my community. And Michael is widely accepted where I live in St. Louis. And I've moved to smaller towns, kind of in the sticks, in the country here and there. And Michael isn't as accepted in those smaller towns, in those country folk towns. But in the city where I live in St. Louis, you know, Michael is huge there.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. That is beautiful. Um, that was gonna be my other question is what inspired you to pay homage to Michael, because very popular entertainer in the world, period.
Yeah, the biggest entertainer in the world. And Michael is huge. So what inspired me? I lacked a lot of love, familial love in my childhood and growing up. And to me, Michael was a big figure of love in my life. And he was all about love and peace and unity and bringing the world together. Songs like We Are the World, Heal the World, songs that bring people together. And for me, that really sat in my soul and gave me that love that I needed. You know, Michael is the reason why I do what I do. I do it because I love Michael. I do it because I receive the love from the people, and it's a great feeling. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, it's not for me. It's for Michael. Paying tribute to him, continuing his legacy for the newer generation, new and old.
Right. And that's a beautiful thing. And the other question is, how did Michael inspire you in a sense of like wanting to pay homage to him and dress up and do all the dancing
Yeah,
and all that, and doing the singing, which that's pretty impressive.
thank you. That's a difficult question. I mean, I can go into several different rabbit holes. I really like Michael's fashion. Michael's fashion to me, is really cool. And it's a lot different from, your other celebrities and things, you know, and I kind of wear that fashion on my daily life. And I don't try to be like him, I don't try to dress like him, but my fashion is inspired by him. And as for, his singing compared to mine, I've learned to sing because of him, you know, and not only do I pay tribute and sing Michael Jackson when I do my shows, but I do my own original content here and there. I don't really release it online. It's more for personal fun. But Michael has kind of taught me how to sing, and not a lot of artists sing like that. We're talking about a man who's singing in such various keys, notes. You know, just like Michael, I'm a tenor. But I really love Michael, and I respected what he did in the message that he put out for our planet, healing the world and the earth and our planet. And to me, that's what I want to continue to do. That's what really inspires me to pay tribute to Michael Jackson, is to continue his message, honestly,
That's
because that's what people
amazing.
need to hear, especially in these times. People need to hear that.
That's amazing. That is really beautiful. Um, what is your favorite Michael Jackson song?
That's a
Dude.
tough question, Big Buck. Big Buck. Let me tell you, my favorite Michael Jackson song, if I had to pick, just so the general audience will know, my first song number one is going to be Billie Jean because that's where the magic is at. You know, that song's so magical, it has a driving beat, it just makes you want to get up and dance. But if I had to pick a song, like a deep cut, kind of a song that not a lot of the general public know, I would say Blood on the Dance Floor. That song is nice, it has a driving beat, it's dark, mysterious, and I
Right.
like that. Because not only did Michael sing about, you know, finding love and being in love and, joining people together and all sorts of things like that, but Michael had various different themes in his songs, which not a lot of artists do, you know,
Right.
especially in these times.
That's amazing. That's for matter of fact, that's the most beautiful thing that anyone has said. I think, uh, I think, even though this one's not really a part of this question, but I think Travis Payne said it best. Is that Travis Payne, Michael's choreographer, which I had
Yeah,
on the show, and he said that Michael is for everyone, and that what he calls the Michael verse, and
the Michael verse. Yeah, I like that.
yeah, and where people really come together should come together and really show the love of magic and everything
Right,
and
right.
everything
Michael
really.
had that kind of power. Michael had that ability to bring people together and enjoy his music and the company of others and stuff. Michael is powerful like that. I've heard from Michael Bush, Michael's costume designer, that if Michael were to walk into a room, he wouldn't even have to make himself known. He wouldn't even say, "Hey, I'm here." You would just know it's Michael walking through the room because he's that powerful. Michael had that kind of energy, that aura. He was very powerful like that.
Right,
The Michael verse. That's a good way to describe it. Travis Payne did it well.
right,
Michael was very powerful like that. Truly, I believe that. And that
yeah,
goes unrecognized. That goes very unrecognized.
yeah, it does, it does. The next question is, what is your favorite Michael Jackson dance move you like to do, like the moonwalk, the lean,
Oh
um, the choreography to
goodness.
beat it? I mean, there's a lot of choreography.
You know, if it if it is like a set piece of choreography, like a pattern, or a series of moves. Um, I really like doing Thriller. I like dancing. Doing you know that thing,
Yeah,
and
right.
I really like doing that. But for me, And I'm not sure if a lot of other tributes do this, but you know, I like to grab down there a little bit. I'm not afraid to get a little show a little heat in front of some ladies when I
Right.
perform.
Right.
Speaking of, I mean, those kind of dance moves. I've had old ladies come to my show, and they're like, "Can you not do that? Can you not grab down there?" I was like, "Look, I can't control it." Just like Michael said, you become that music. You can't control the moves that you do. You know, out of all the dances, I mean, I love them all. You know,
Right.
I have a lot of my own twisted moves, and I put my own spin on it. And I study some of the artists that Michael studied, like James Brown and Bob Fosse and stuff like that. And I take a lot of inspiration from them too, while trying to make it my own. I don't want to be a carbon copy of Michael.
Right.
And some people think that tribute should be exactly what Michael did, but I like to stay a little original sometimes.
Right. That's absolutely right. You're right about that. What is your favorite Michael Jackson era? Like they have the Jackson Five, we have the Triumph, we have Off the Wall, Thriller. I mean the list goes on, right? So
The list goes
what is
on.
your favorite?
I mean, let's just stop. The Jackson Five era is great. Michael was working hard in that time, really trying to become a person and a figure, and some would say against his own will. And I might agree on that a little bit. But if we're talking, like Victory, Destiny era or anything like that, I mean, that's a hard pick. But musically, I would say my favorite era would be Off the Wall. I think musically, that was his peak. That was a different, a new sound, a new Michael that people weren't expecting, and people loved it, and so did I. But when it comes to fashion, when it comes to the look, I would say I can definitely go with Invincible era, which is very underrated, as you know. That goes very unrecognized. That's my favorite era. The fashion was incredible. Even going a little bit further into what they call the mature era, like mid 2000s, and you know, even late 2000s, like This Is It. I'm really inspired by that fashion, that look.
That's
That's the era that I like.
that's gr- that's really well said. Um,
What about yourself?
I can't really pick an era, but if I were to pick, um, honestly, it's the Off the Wall.
It's rough, isn't it?
Yeah,
Off the
but I
wall.
would pick Off the Wall because
It's a hard question to ask any Michael Jackson fan. What's your favorite era? I like it all.
yeah, I like it all. But I would talk if we're talking about the this in terms of the whole either the look or the album of that era which it was released. The album era, um, Off the Wall because like it was the first album that that went that gave Michael that little push to that little bit of the first his first solo as an adult
Right.
on Epic.
Gave him that push into the superstardom. Not a
Yeah,
lot of people were expecting Michael to come out with Off the Wall. People thought that Michael Jackson was going to be in the Jacksons forever, which it could have happened. But Michael went off and did his own thing, and he became the biggest star in the world because of Off the Wall.
right. But yeah, yeah. That's a good one, and I that is something I agree with. Uh, but if we're talking about the look, I would say um history because like of both the above a little bit of the short hair, a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and somewhat of that little outfit that he was some of the outfits he would wear to promote
Yeah, like the
military.
futuristic military stuff. Futuristic military. That was cool in history.
Yeah,
You know, he wore a lot of regal military uniforms in history era, and I loved it. You know, that calls for demand, attention.
yeah, absolutely. Um, and the next question, which which I think that I am excited to even ask in the first place, is that are you excited to see the Michael biopic starring his nephew Jafar Jackson?
Don't even get me started. You know, I am very excited about that biopic. And we were supposed to get the biopic this year, 2025. I believe it was supposed to come out in, was it April, right?
Yeah,
Originally. And then it got pushed to October. And then we heard some news from some sources that it might not even come out until, 2026, maybe 2027. But
right.
I imagine the biopic is going to be one of the biggest biopics in film history, biopic history. And we got the Elvis biopic, the Whitney Houston biopic. There's so many good ones out there, but I think Michael, definitely deserves his story to be told. And it could have been anybody to play Michael, but they chose Jafar. And I think that was the right person to do it. They could have picked an impersonator, someone like myself to play Michael.
Yeah, like
And
yeah,
sure, the looks would have been great, yeah. But someone who really knows Michael, and can sing like Michael, that's important, you know.
right.
I think Jafar's going to do a very good job. I heard they had to do a lot of reshoots due to some legal matters regarding, some cases from the 90s, which I don't think we should get into. But I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm sure you are too. And same for the
Yeah,
rest of the. I'm sure you would agree that this biopic is really kind of low on the radar. It's not
yeah,
getting a lot of attention, especially from the general public.
yeah. And I do remember. I do remember. I was actually when we were talking about when you were saying about like a tribute artist could be, hire any impersonator. I believe that I was on Michael Trapson's live, and I basically said the same thing. I said it could have been they could have had any tribute artist like Trapson, you, or anyone. But I think with the real essence and the familial essence, and in terms of like someone that has that bloodline and a little bit of that,
Right?
it's somebody that
Someone who
really,
knows him.
yeah, really personally close to heart, and
Hmm.
they picked the right one because and I believe that I was talking to Michael's cousin, I believe, and he was saying that they even picked the right one.
Yeah, the right one. I think
And
they made a really good choice. They
yeah,
made a really good choice because we've got, other biopic type films like Flex Alexander, The Man in the Mirror biopic. I think it came out in like the early 2000s. That was an
2004.
awful one. 2004. That was, no offense. I think they portrayed Michael very poorly in that. They
Yeah,
made Michael, they made Michael out to be, in my own opinion, they made Michael look like a giant man child, which he isn't. Michael's a smart man, and they made him look, not smart, very idiotic, and I didn't appreciate that. And I know that they were trying to mean well,
right. And
and I
I
think that's very distasteful. We got the oh, go ahead.
well, I do remember somewhere in the stratosphere of the either on the internet and some sources that there could be there's a lot of elements of Michael calling it ignorant and stuff like that. And even Flex
Right.
said in interviews that he just wanted to pay homage to Michael himself, but I think is it's how because like he it was implied to Flex that Michael's music was going to be played in the movie when he
Right.
first started the project. But then I guess news got to him that they didn't get the permission, so I guess he had to improvise and whatnot, and and basically, at first I didn't. At first, I was I was always like that because like that was my one of my many first biopics of Michael that we have
Right.
before Searching for Neverland.
Right.
Um, and I think that's mostly any biopic that I think this is a hot take a little bit. Um, I think the most biopics that we ever had about Michael was on television, and
Yeah, television movies, and they would go on DVD. But let's not completely blame Flex for how the movie made Michael look. Flex
yeah,
isn't in control of the writing, of course. The Searching for Neverland, that's a good one. You know, I mean, if you can get past Navi's thick accent, it's a good film. I think they did a really, really good job of, you know, telling the story that was written by Michael's bodyguard.
yeah, go with you.
His bodyguard's written a book. I think it's, yeah, Bill Whitfield and Javon Beard. It was called "Remember the Time: Protecting Michael Jackson in His Final Days." It's a really good book. And for those of you who are watching who haven't read it, I really think you should read it. It gives you a deep insight onto some information you may not know about Michael. And if you struggle to read, kind of like myself, you can get it on Kindle or Amazon as an audiobook. And it's worth listening to or reading.
Yeah, absolutely,
And the
and
movie, the movie did a good job of,
yes,
encompassing the book in the short, hour and a half that they had to do so.
that's right. And going back to a little bit way before even those two movies, um, The American Dream. That
Mm-hmm.
was the first one that really had the depiction of Michael and the family. But I think that one was just about the family. But there was one that where like they also had like Michael in there, and and R.I.P. Rest in peace, Wally Draper, who portrayed the adult Michael,
Mm-hmm.
and sending my flowers to Jason Weaver, who portrayed the young Michael. Is really they're both really though they both really did a good job of
Very good
portraying
job,
Michael
of
in that
course.
way at that time. So and and with this biopic coming out, um, sometime next year, I think. Um,
Hopefully, hopefully.
hopefully, yeah, hopefully. Um, I hope to see what we all wanted to see a little bit. I mean, we might not get all the got what we really want and stuff, but it is that
Right,
when we see it, it would make at least it'll give us something a little bit of an insight that we probably don't know.
right. And the estate is backing that movie. His family is in the creative process. And I don't think that the family's going to put out something that'll make Michael look bad, which is a good thing. It's good that the estate is behind this.
Yeah, and I remember because like before MJ the musical, I actually had my own first script I had with my high school teachers. One of my high school teachers back in high school, I had a little mini Michael Jackson play. I wrote a script. I don't know what happened to
Really?
that script. I don't know what happened to that script, but
Did you perform it?
no, matter of fact, it never came to fruition.
Oh
Um,
my.
yeah, because there was so much hectic behind because like we already did like a play called The Family Secret, which was written by a former classmate of mine, um, which I have not spoken to him since, because I had moved around. But
Would you say that they maybe didn't pick up the play because Michael is controversial?
I think that's one of one of the things. That's one of them. I think that's one of
Yeah,
the things, but the real reason is kind of like up in the air kind of thing. Um,
that happens. That's entertainment for you. You know, you write something, you try to do something. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't.
right. And going to the next question, I think there's because you and another mutual people that we know, another tribute artist named Michael Dan. Um,
Yeah.
Shout out to Michael Dan. Um, you two starting a show called Michael in the Mirror. What is Michael in the Mirror and how this tribute show came about?
Yeah, Michael in the Mirror. So let's flash back to 2022. I was doing this music festival and I was good friends with Michael Dan. At the time we still are. We're business partners now. So I said, hey man, come on out, come do the show with me, just have fun. And so we did the show, we had fun, and we had fire dancers and hoop dancers, and incredible show, incredible show. We had multiple standing ovations, and we thought, okay, why don't we do this again? Like it was so well received in the audience at this music festival. So we said, okay, let's do this. Let's reconvene in a few weeks. And we kind of pondered on and off. Like how are we going to set this up? How are we going to do it? And we ended up forming a production company, which we now own. Me and him are both co-owners of this production company. And one of the shows within the production company that we star in is called Michael in the Mirror. And like I said, it kind of just goes back to, you know, 2022, and I'm calling up Michael and I'm like, hey, brother, come on out, come have fun. Let's make some magic happen. And in fact, Michael in the Mirror was supposed to happen this October at the St. Louis Castle Loma Ballroom, but it got postponed. We're still working on some things. We're trying to make the show as best as it can be. We're going to do the show March 20th, 7 p.m. at the Castle Loma Ballroom in St. Louis, Missouri. Phenomenal show, and we'll put up more details. You can check out our website, mitmtribute.com, to get more information about the show.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think
Yeah,
this last question, there's a last question. This is the last question. What advice would you want to give younger generation of Michael Jackson fans who wants to be a Michael Jackson tribute artist or
hmm
Michael Jackson impersonator, some say? But what is your advice?
um, I would say take your time doing what you do because you know how powerful social media is. And, you want to put out great content. And yeah, you want people to see you grow. But not only that, social media, has a billion of people worldwide. Everyone's on social media. There's going to be haters. There's going to be people that support you. And I would say definitely take the time and don't give attention to the haters because that's what feeds them, you know. And there's a lot of hate in, you know, what would we what we would call the MJ community and even the Michael Jackson impersonator community. We're all in competition. And one piece of advice that I would give that another impersonator gave me, Carl O'Reilly. I remember we had a visit 2 years ago, and he said, "Look, man, we are all on the same level," and that's the way I see it. Ever since then, I really stepped back and I said, you know what? We really are. We're all doing the same thing anyway, you know. But if it comes down to like statistics and things like that, don't hate your competition because we're all doing the same thing. Practice your craft, do good, do good work, make Michael look good. That's all that matters. And love Michael. Continue his message. Not only do it because you love Michael, but do it for others. Make other people
Right.
happy doing it.
That's amazing. Um, I would say that is the most best advice that I've ever heard. Um,
Yeah,
I
thank
want
you.
to thank you for
I'm not one good for advice. I'm not one good for advice, but you know what? I'll give the best advice I can, you know. I'm no therapist, so this is just my opinion, you know. But I really thank you for having me with that.
You're welcome, and I hope to
Thank you
see
so much.
you in your show when you come to Florida, and we'll have a good time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll see you there. Free tickets on me, my friend.
Right. Thank you.